Hey guys, Leona here with Empowering Wellness, and it is a terrific Tuesday, our virtual book club. And tonight we have Shelly that is talking about a journey to the heart of grace, a self-love survival guide. And this is week 3, and I'm so excited to be able to have her joining us live tonight and to have me joining us live. Weather had, let's say, different plans for my travel plans, so I am still in the beautiful Greenwich. I will be heading back to Jacksonville in the morning. The rain created such delays. There was no flights out of Atlanta, so I get to wake up early and head out of JFK direct flight into Jacksonville tomorrow. So little client changes around, a little movement in the schedule, but you know what? This book is all about grace. So you got to give ourselves grace and the situation grace. And so, it is still Mercury in retrograde. And so we got to give ourselves a little grace. It was really chaotic in the airport. And Shelly and I were talking. I was like, it would be a great day to talk about empathy for sure, because empathetic was a huge display of what had to happen today in the airport, right? We had to empathize with the people, the situation, like all the things of the travel craziness that was happening. And so I started to read Welcome, Shelly, on page 119, Empathy. And I wanted to share directly out of the book before you started sharing your nuggets with us. Welcome. Mercury retrograde is working for us so far. We have connected. This is awesome. But I wanted to share the quote. It said, empathy is the medicine the world needs. And that was a quote by Judith Orloff. And I thought that was so huge because today, I tried to speak to the representative in the traveling, and she literally shoved her hand in my face and was like, I'm boarding the plane. We'll do it later. I was like, okay, she's got a lot on her plate. And then when she called the Jacksonville flight and realized that we had no connecting, I said, hi, ma'am, that's why I was trying to talk to you earlier. I wanted to see about my connecting flight. And, it was one of those things that she was so super rude, and I could have been rude back, but she was in an overwhelming situation. And I did feel empathetic for her to be we can't control the weather, and there has to be things that come through. So when I was reading this, when I came back, when I had all this amazing time today, I wanted to share exactly from the book because I thought this was so perfect. I said, empathy is the ability to share and understand the feeling of others. In that moment, I needed to pause. It wasn't about me. It was about everybody in the whole situation. As an empathic person, the overwhelming amount of anger at the airport today was I came back with a headache. I had to get on my frequency machine to ground my foot frequency machine. I'm wearing my Healy and grounding myself now because it was a lot of external factors. And then it says, it is the energy that creates safety, connection, and understanding in relationships. It allows us to step outside of our own perspective into someone else's world, to not just see what they see, but feel what they feel. Empathy is more than a feeling, it's a presence. It is the tender art of feeling with not fixing, not absorbing, and not bypassing. It is the grace of standing beside someone, including yourself, and saying with full awareness, and I love this, I see you, I feel this with you, you are not alone. And I was in a crowded airport. I was definitely not alone, and we were all feeling the frustrations at the same time. But I made sure that I came back here, I grounded myself, I cleared myself and got myself in, because it wasn't about everybody else. It was the weather, it was a situation, there was things that happened. And I thought, you know what, this is such a great topic to talk about today, is for us energetic beings that are a little bit more aware, that are on this call, what is important about understanding about empathy? If you're in balance or not in balance, how can we protect ourselves? What does it actually mean to be an empath? You hear that a lot of time, but what does that actually mean? So Shelly, welcome, my dear, to our terrific Tuesday Empowering Wellness Virtual Book Club. Please tell us this beautiful inspiration and why you wanted to put this in this book, and why these things are going to be so important for our listeners to hear tonight.
Yeah. Your example is just perfect. For today. I think, it is I think this is key to what the world needs today. There's so much angst, a lot of division. And for me, empathy is super powerful. It is a connector when we can stop long enough and put ourselves. My mom always used to say when I was growing up, put yourself in the other person's shoes, or how do you think that person feels in this situation? And so she was a really great teacher for me. And when I was young, not knowing that she was really teaching me to, be more empathetic towards people, um, it causes you to pause a moment and see the situation in new eyes. And yes, you're in a super stressful situation trying to get from point A to point B. Everybody's hustling and bustling. The attendants and the gate personnel are feeling overwhelmed. Everybody's angry. They're probably unleashing at them and they're just bombarded with all this energy coming at them and they've just like had enough. Um, when you've had enough or somebody's had enough because too much energy is coming at you, it's a disconnect versus a connect. And so that right there is an indicator that that whole energy. Uh, for me, you asked a lot of questions there, and there's so much I love to talk about empathy because I really believe that there is a segment of the population that was born highly intuitive, highly sensitive, highly, I'm going to say empathic. Um, and just as I got on, I wanted to see what the definition actually was, because for me, empathy is the ability to connect and understand somebody else's situation, to be able to hold space for somebody when that's going on. And I'm sure there's you included, me included, and many people that would be watching this could tell you a situation or an example, and hopefully that somebody has had this kind of a situation or example. But when you're in the presence of somebody that has a lot of empathy, you feel incredibly seen, you feel held, you feel understood in ways that you didn't think anybody would be able to understand you. And the ability to do that for somebody and with somebody is an incredible gift. And it's powerful. It holds space, it helps people heal. It helps people to see parts of themselves that maybe they weren't able to see themselves. And it's crazy cool, I think. Some of us were born with that ability. Some of us learned how to become that way because we've had parents teaching us. And then there's another segment that may have learned how to become what I would call an empath, loaded with empathy, because it was a coping mechanism. And I want to just talk a little bit about that because on my own healing path, I was very sensitive as a child. My mom would sit and tell you how sensitive I was. I was always seeing things that were going on, very connected with what was happening externally, and could see injustice super easily and didn't understand why that was happening or how somebody could treat somebody a certain way. And I grew up feeling like everybody was wired like me. Everybody could see what I could see. Everybody understood at different levels like I could understand. And I'm not saying that to, bolster myself up or make me feel like I'm more important than somebody else, but it was just something that came naturally, and I just assumed it was natural for other people. And I ended up, I just want to tell a little bit about my story, with all of this. I also, being wired that way, I then married into a situation where I felt very loving at first, and there's a lot of love within my first marriage. But at one point, it became very, very toxic. And because I was so empathic, I kind of could read the room. I knew what to do. I knew what not to do. I knew, how to kind of keep the peace because of that. And over the years, and I really want to speak about this because over the years, what was happening, I was losing myself and I didn't really realize it. And so empathy is the ability to love and it, through expressed understanding and hold somebody else's experience with compassion while remaining grounded in truth and honoring ourselves and our well-being. I did not understand that when I was going through my healing process. And so when I ended up getting out of my marriage and going through a divorce, I started hearing all this stuff about being an empath. Are you an empath? What is an empath? And it just wasn't that wasn't even in my realm of knowledge at that time, if you will. So if it's okay with you, I would love to ask a few questions of anybody listening or anybody that's listening later. And I'm very curious whether or not you have strong empathic abilities. And I've got 10 questions I'd like to ask.
Perfect. If they are watching live, put hashtag live in the comments. If they are watching the replay, put hashtag replay. And then we would love to see your answers in the comments so that we can witness you in these questions.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. I wanted to back up before you ask the questions. It's what you said, the feeling, but also being grounded in yourself. And I think that's a huge part that people are like, you can still feel and experience and let it go through, but you've got to be grounded in yourself. So I knew at the time that I was feeling emotionally overwhelmed today that the first thing I needed to do was to come back and ground myself on my machine and do the frequency healing and the clearing, because I didn't feel fully in my body because it was such many external factors that were kind of like overwhelming my nervous system. And so I knew I needed to ground myself, and then I could sit down and be like, okay, there's a reason I can't fly out tonight. Like I wouldn't have been able to join the live tonight, right? Like like I got other things done. Like what were the other things that I could now look at as positive once I grounded myself back into it? At first, I was emotional responding like everybody else, but that's such a good point. It's like you can feel the feels as long as you're grounded in yourself to understand what is theirs and what is yours, and that's not intertwined in it. So
absolutely.
I thought that was super key that you said that. I want to make sure the audience had heard. So I will answer them when you ask them. We'll let the collective put it in the comments, but I'll answer them out loud if you want me to for my own answer.
Well, you could do that, or maybe you keep a mental tab, because what what I'm after is a yes, no, or a sometimes.
Oh,
so
okay, gotcha.
That if you answer them,
in my mind's eye.
Yeah, kind of keep a tally in your mind's eye. I should have had you bring a little piece of paper.
Okay.
But I just want to circle back to something you said too. And, it's like, what is mine and what isn't mine? And when I teach women and a deeper dive in this in my 12-week course, we start talking about that. And one of the questions to really disrupt your normal pattern of, like you're checking in with yourself, what do I need right now? Sometimes it really is from this empathetic piece is to ask, is this mine?
Yeah.
Because if it's not yours, you can easily just say, okay, you can start to create that energetic barrier. You can start to sometimes you need to create a physical barrier as well. But it at least allows you to take a pause and then to ask the question, because your normal response might not be exactly what you need in that moment. So, empathy, we're talking too, is, it's about the connection with other people. But somebody like myself, when I was going through my healing journey, I didn't know how to be with myself in an empathetic way. And I wasn't even taught that that was allowed, acceptable,
or possible,
a thing. Yeah. So, and not that it's not allowed, but, depending on how you've been raised or different, cultural and religious upbringing, some of that some of that would look and appear to be self-centered, which may not necessarily be acceptable. So you may have kind of gotten the message like, well, I can't do that. That's really not acceptable. I'm really here to serve and be of service to other people. And yes, that is true, but we also have to take care of ourselves. We have to love ourselves in such a way that we are a vessel that can be used to the greatest of our abilities, because we are filling ourselves up and we are taking care of ourselves. And it just comes back to bringing love back to ourselves. So yes, 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 all day long. Is this mine or is it somebody else's? Perfect question and perfectly aligned with what I teach. So thank you for
Yeah, I
saying
love
that.
that. You're so welcome.
Yeah. So let's go back to here. If anybody's watching and you have a little piece of paper to tally, it's 10 questions, and answer them. Yes, this applies. No, it doesn't apply, or sometimes. I often know how someone is feeling before they tell me. I often no, excuse me. I often notice subtle changes in people's moods. I can usually tell when someone says they're fine, but they aren't. People open up naturally to me. I care deeply about other people's experiences. I naturally try to understand why people behave the way they do. Loud conflict or intense emotions affect me. I often notice what other people need before they ask. I can easily imagine life from another person's perspective. And then the last one, I value kindness and emotional connection. Okay. So if you've answered yes to many of these, you likely have very strong empathic abilities. Hi, Kate. I'm seeing people comment. That's kind of fun. Um, if you okay, so if you've answered yes to many of those, it's likely that you have a lot of empathic abilities, which is beautiful, beautiful gift. And if you didn't, that's fine too. This isn't, an opportunity to say, oh, I'm better, oh, you're not as good, or oh, I should be better. This isn't a judgment, it's just an observation of who we are, how we're wired, how we operate, how we get through life. But it also, the second piece of that doesn't necessarily tell us if the empathic traits that we have are healthy, or and serving ourselves as it's serving somebody else. And kind of touched on this a little bit as we're talking, and I shared a little bit about my previous life and how even this book came into play, if you will. I really, my whole healing started with this whole idea of empathy. And empathy, I thought, oh, that's just really easy. It's easy for me, but didn't really understand that I was bleeding energy all over the place. And I wasn't returning that same energy back to myself to fill my well. So I have another 10 questions if we want to go through the next 10. But before I do that, do you want to comment at all about anything, or like you want to share? And I'm not putting you on the spot, but if you want to share kind of where did you land? If you
I was
feel open to
9 to
sharing.
1.
Okay. 9, and the fact that 9 was all
Yes.
yeses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, this is usually where the majority of people that I work with that come to me, highly, highly empathic.
And like you said, like holding space. I mean, that's what I do as a spiritual life coach, like healer
Yes.
person that holds retreats and stuff. Like that's my whole mission, is to hold sacred space and a container for healing and to witness and to go through transformation and stuff. So yeah, it's it was learned and also innately, both, I think, with it.
Yes.
So
Yes. And what a
mm,
beautiful gift. So, back to what I was saying at the very beginning, people in your space have felt that gift, that space of being safe and held and seen. And so much happens when you can create a space like that for somebody else, not only for yourself, because there's such a beautiful energy that comes back as a result of that, but just deeply healing for the other person. So I'm excited to hear. I'm not surprised, but I'm very excited to hear
I
that.
love it.
Yeah. Okay. So what we're gonna go through. This is another 10 questions. And if I had asked and I'm just going to preface this, because if I had had this checklist when I first started my healing journey, I would have answered, I'm going to say not low, but it would have been like I would have just been bleeding all over. And again, this isn't judgment, it's observation. So you can kind of understand what's happening within you. Okay. Number one, I can care deeply without feeling responsible for fixing people. And again, yes, no, or sometimes. I know the difference between someone else's emotions and my own. I can listen without taking someone else's problems home with me. I allow other adults to solve their own problems. I can say no without overwhelming guilt. I can leave difficult conversations and return to my own peace. I know when I need to rest after emotionally demanding situations. I ask myself what I need just as often as I ask others. I don't feel responsible for everyone's happiness. I can stay compassionate without abandoning myself. That was the last one. So, again, Leona, you want to share? Again, I don't want to put you on the
Yes, no
spot
worries.
because, okay.
I was 8 to 2. And I would say the question that I was most proud that I could say yes to is learning how to say no without anything else. So when I learned that no was a complete sentence all by itself, it didn't need an and or a but or anything attached to it, was one of the best things. Like if I can really, like, if no serves me, I will have no problem saying no. Now, am I accommodating to my clients, to schedules? We'll move things around if I feel like that's the best for everybody. It's an ecology win-win. Yes, absolutely. When it's not, I have learned to say no, and it feels really freaking
It does,
good.
doesn't it? It
Yeah.
really does. Yeah. Um, I hear you on that one. And I'm glad to hear that you've made strides with that, because that's a big one for me. Like, feeling guilt all the time, um, I would not have scored very high on any of these when I first started out. And I have to be honest and say, there's times, I can look at this list and go, yeah, I've got more work to do there. I feel very deeply and I feel very strongly. And I'm learning the clues in my body when I start to tap back into my body and I let my body speak too, when I might be in a place of cognitive dissonance. And it's like, what's coming at me? It's like my body is saying, no, 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 that doesn't feel good, but I can't necessarily formulate words around why it doesn't. But especially, let's just say, for example, somebody's asking you to do something, your body's screaming, no, 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 that's not good for me, or it doesn't work for me. And you've been trained, or
Right.
you've felt like, you got to keep showing up for people. And the empathy that you have for everybody else takes precedence, and your body is on screech. There's like two messages coming in that just are not in alignment. And the last several years, I've been really working to connect, the thoughts here and then noticing what's happening in my body. And if they aren't aligned, it's either I'll think about that, or can I get back with you, or, something to just bide me some time so that, one, my nervous system can settle down and I can truly understand why it's getting kicked up, and, what the situation is. So it's,
I like that you created a time and a space to actually tune in. Like, I think it's perfectly okay to be like, I will get back to you with that. I'm not quite sure. Like, I need time to feel into that. Like, literally, like, feel into what is happening or going. And I had a conversation with another practitioner that wasn't wanting to say right away or get excited about a collaboration, because she's like, let's work with each other, let's trade with each other, let's have some more time together before we say that. And I think a lot of times as practitioners, we get so excited as someone being like-minded that you say yes right away because of the excitement, versus actually really like feeling into it and seeing if it feels in alignment and feels good in the body, and gives
yes,
that time. And so I love that awareness that we get to have now, that it's okay to take some extra time to be able to do it. Yes, if that gut reaction is like 100% in, or you've muscle tested or whatever, and you're like 100% in, say yes. I've always been a yes person. I always said that movie Yes Man was like, it was a me thing. It's like, how did I travel 107 countries and, did all the things? It's because I said yes to all these
yes,
amazing opportunities, right?
yeah,
But now I'm feeling like I'm learning discernment, and does it feel good in my body? And I just not instantly excited about something, because I like to say yes and I like new things. So yeah, that's great to be able to give that time. What a great awareness to
yeah.
get curious with yourself to create that space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we've all said yes to things sometimes, and you're just like, why did I say yes to this? And was it external pressure? Was it internal pressure? Just really, kind of diving a little deeper and understanding why we respond the way that we do. And I love the fact that you're a yes woman, and that as a result of that, that's opened a lot of doors and a lot of experiences, and that's absolutely amazing. And in the same breath, you know, for somebody, that those may have been, some of those yeses may have been, I'm not really sure. And they've said yeses anyway, and then kind of not felt so great as a result of that. And I guess that's what, I'm talking about here, is that it is okay to give yourself that space, to take the time and make sure it is, the right answer for you. And and then what comes in, if it's a no, it's to start dealing with the guilt of saying no, because it's just like, you can start to honor yourself, but there can still be those trickles of guilt, like you're letting somebody else down, or you're not coming through for somebody else. And a lot of times, a lot of these questions overlap, or they just kind of snowball, because there's facets to all of that in certain situations. So mostly yes, you were mostly yeses. So that means you have very healthy empathic abilities and very balanced. So that's beautiful. Um, I was just finished up a 12-week course, and one of the women that were in there, and she's like, this would have been really helpful at the beginning, because then you can kind of track how far you've come from the beginning of the 12 weeks to the last of the 12 weeks. And I thought, oh, that's really brilliant. And thanks for saying
Great
that. But
feedback. Yeah.
yeah, great feedback. But what she was noticing, even in this, towards the end of our time together, was how some of these had shifted from a no to a sometimes. They weren't primarily yeses, but she was really able to identify, oh my gosh, I've really made strides in all of this, because these would have been no's 12 weeks ago. And so that's really exciting too, to be able to see how far you've come and where you're headed. So there's that.
Love that. It gives
Yeah.
you the glimpse into the potential and the possibilities that there are there, that you can have more of that balance and with it, which is
Yes.
amazing.
Yes. Yes. And when you're holding that beautiful space for somebody else, and you can also consider yourself and hold yourself in that same regard, throughout that whole matter, like just like you said, it's a win-win situation. You don't leave feeling burned out or drained, and you feel, like this beautiful energetic exchange happening where you're receiving, they're receiving, they're giving, you're giving. It's just a really beautiful flow. So I don't know where we at with time, but there's a third part to this, but I don't want to go into it. But it's another set of questions. I can put those into the group. Uh, it's checking in to see if your empathy has turned into self-abandonment, and that's where I learned. That's where I really was at a place where I was in such a self-abandonment mode that I knew I had a lot of work to do to find my way back home to me. And that's what this book is all about. The framework is about that, coming home to yourself, treating yourself as beautifully as you treat other people, and not feeling guilty about it, because you are somebody that is a beautiful gift here on the planet, and you're worthy of receiving all the beautiful things that you give out. So
Amazing. I love that. So
oh,
why don't we have all of those questions put into the group? And remember, guys, if you're
absolutely.
not of the Empowering Wellness Virtual Book Club, make sure you come into the group. It's our container where we get to hold space for you to be able to be seen and witness and have this discovery and learning and get curious and create maybe a transformation at the end of the series. For this one and other authors that we have the opportunity to really grow in. I mean, it's all about creating this like-minded connections, to ask some questions, to get curious. I always say the best thing you can do is to get curious. What if this could happen? What could this be a possibility? What if this could be a different ending? What if I could be that balanced empath that could understand that it wasn't my energy and it was someone else's, and I could say no with a complete sentence and feel
Yes,
excited for it, right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
So I
Yeah,
think putting all of those questions into the group will be so nice to be able to throughout the next few days, so that people have a chance to really look at it and let it sink in and
sure.
bring that into it and get a little bit more curious. So what else would you
Absolutely.
like to share tonight as our final thoughts before we wrap up?
Good question. Just stick with it. I mean, honestly, this is I just want to encourage you that wherever you fall on the scale, it's not a it's not the end. It's you know our healing journeys are just that. They're journeys, and our life journeys are that. They're journeys, and everything that's put in front of us. I was going to say in our way, because it's not always in our way, but in front of us
And
is
our
a learn
awareness. Yeah.
yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
is a learning opportunity. And it wouldn't be showing up unless you were ready to tackle it, address it, see it. And when you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's amazing as well, because you can't unsee it. It's not a blind spot anymore. And that's just one step in the right direction of where you are headed, and your soul's evolution, your soul's growth. And that to me is super exciting. Might not always feel great, but it's super exciting.
Yes, it is not the weak of heart necessarily to be in a spiritual growth and a journey, right? Like,
Yes.
people, I think sometimes there's this ignorance is bliss thing there is some truth in that. But
Yes.
I'd rather have more things in my awareness and have more learnings and lessons so that I can grow and expand, than being in the ignorant bliss bubble. I want to
I
be in a
agree with
protective
you.
love bubble, but I don't want to be in an ignorant bliss bubble.
Yeah. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I do have to admit, though, there have been times where I'm like, oh man, I wish I could go into an ignorance is bliss bubble just for 5 minutes.
Right?
But no,
Yeah, it
I
would.
wouldn't want to stay there. So yeah,
No. So I would love to teach the collective that is listening. If you do happen to go in those heavy rooms and those heavy situations, and you feel some of this icky, sticky kind of energy on your person, on your body, you kind of almost feel heavy. I will teach a really quick, energetic kind of Reiki technique that I learned way back when, and I find it really, really helpful. And it's taking our hand from our shoulder to our hip, sweeping down, one on each side, then sweeping down the arm and everything in threes.
Mm,
Then you crisscross over, and it's like you're wiping off all that heavy, dense thing, right? Third time, crossing through the body, crossing down the arms, and then you just kind of like shake it all out, all like the icky on it. And then I tell people, imagine that you're then zipping your auric field into this protective love bubble to seal yourself back in and bringing it all the way around. And then imagining that golden white light of healing energy of love and light, just refilling it. And then I say to myself, only love and light lives in here. Only love and light is welcome in here. And that sort of gives me this energetic little reset if we are in that heavy kind of space. And so, you know, I needed to do that after today, ground all the things. And I thought, you know, that would be a great thing to share with the collective. When we do feel some of that heavy, icky, you know, energy, sometimes it's nice just to wipe, sweep, and shake it away, and then refeel ourselves, recenter ourselves, reground ourselves, use our breath, come back to ourselves, so that you can be in that grounded, strong, empathetic energy. So hopefully that was helpful for the collective.
Yes, it was beautiful. It's a perfect way to end this.
Yay. Well, for the collective, for everybody watching, we're so grateful and thankful to have you here, to be present with us on this journey. And we've got one more beautiful week with Miss Shelly. And so join us into the group so you can interact with us. And until next time, I'm sending you all much peace, love, and light. Namaste.